This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
A seismic shift in American politics and a day that will live on in American history. The sitting president and presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, will not run for re-election in November.
So now the question becomes, where does the Democratic Party go from here? In that same statement where he dropped out of the race, President Biden endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris and said in part, "I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year."
Reaction pouring in throughout the afternoon, some endorsing Vice President Harris, like top Biden ally, Senator Chris Coons of Connecticut. Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, a co-chair of Biden's campaign, and former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Others thanking Biden for his service, but stopping short of endorsing the vice president, like Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and perhaps biggest of all, former President Obama, calling President Biden a patriot of the highest order, and going on to say we will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead.
Good evening, everyone, on this very busy Sunday night. I'm Joe Torres alongside Tanya Rivero and Mike Marza. The calls for the president, they continue.
Yep, and they've been coming for weeks now, and now we know they are replaced with questions of who will replace him.
That's right, and now a reshuffling of the deck as Joe Biden bows out of the race, pressured by longtime allies who felt there was no way he could win. President Biden making the announcement with a statement early this afternoon announcing, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." Concern about President Biden's condition only grew as he retreated to his home in Delaware after being diagnosed with COVID last week. Sources say the last couple of days have taken a toll, but the timing sent shockwaves.
In fact, the Democratic National Committee was doing a Zoom call to iron out the details of what would have been a virtual roll call to lock down the nomination for him as early as the first week of August. While that call was going on, they got the news of President Biden's statement.
And President Biden only told Vice President Harris moments before he went public, endorsing her to step in. "Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." Vice President Harris saying, "I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination." Reaction quick to come in today, saying Democrats will come together to support Vice President Harris.
I am deeply grateful to President Biden. I mean, he made a selfless decision. I do expect that the Democratic Party will coalesce around Vice President Kamala Harris.
Senator Schumer responded today, "Joe Biden has not only been a great president and a great legislative leader, but he is truly an amazing human being. His decision, of course, was not easy, but he once again put his country, his party, and our future first." And Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, "America is a better place today because President Joe Biden has led us with intellect, grace, and dignity. We are forever grateful." Behind the scenes, President Biden finally acknowledged he has less energy and reached a conclusion the campaign he would have to run against former President Trump would tax him enormously. Mr. Trump reacted, writing this, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. We will suffer greatly because of his presidency, but we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly."
Now, minutes after announcing he will not seek re-election, President Biden, a politician of many years, he knew what was going to happen next. He immediately endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. Harris says she plans to earn and to win the nomination.
That was one question a lot of people would have had, but then still so many questions remain tonight. And ahead of the Democratic National Convention, which, by the way, begins just 4 weeks from tomorrow.
That's right. And, of course, chief among those questions, does Harris have the backing of her own party? Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon continues our coverage. Sonia.
Well, Tanya, Vice President Kamala Harris has many of the obvious advantages should she become the nominee next month in Chicago, like access to the funding for the Biden-Harris campaign, which would be possible to transfer to another candidate, but complicated. At the convention, delegates will have to formally nominate her. But what if they have alternatives? Democrats have been divided in the last few weeks over whether President Biden should stay in or drop out. Can they energize Democratic voters to recommit to Harris or another Democrat? And can they energize the critical swing voters who weren't fond of the choices they had until today? Vice President Harris has announced her candidacy, but that doesn't guarantee her placement at the top of the ticket.
The delegates who were committed to Joe Biden are now officially released from that commitment because he's dropped out of the race. He has endorsed the vice president as his replacement, but he cannot demand that they support her. Many, because they are Biden loyalists, will listen to the president's recommendation and move their support into the Harris column. But the question is whether that's the best thing for Democrats to do at this stage.
Several potential candidates who could become Harris's running mate could also decide to challenge her and run on their own. Possibilities include several governors popular in swing states, North Carolina's Roy Cooper, Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Wes Moore of Maryland, and Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, along with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. All are associated with policies popular with Democrats and independents. But perhaps the most unifying issue for the party is defeating Donald Trump, re-energizing voters. Democrats have about 29 days to figure out their future.
We are really in uncharted territory. There have been presidential candidates who served at first term and chose not to run again. Harry Truman, Lyndon Johnson. Democrats lost each of the subsequent elections, and they withdrew from the election far, far earlier than Joe Biden just did today. So how the Democrats put this together is really a very open question.
The president and several Democratic heavyweights have thrown their support behind the vice president. But will the rest of the party rally behind her as it weighs any potential options?
She's going to make a case to the delegates. She's going to make the case to the American people. And she is going to ensure that the Democratic Party is ready to take on the party of Donald Trump.
Many notable Democrats have already endorsed Vice President Harris. Some haven't, like former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and, of course, former President Barack Obama. Now, we didn't expect to see Vice President Harris make a public appearance on the campaign trail until Tuesday in Milwaukee. No doubt that will change, as will the messaging of both parties. President Biden's age is no longer a factor in this election. Harris is 59. Guys?
All right, Sonia, thank you. We've been talking a lot about donors, a lot about delegates. Many we're hearing from are relieved and thrilled by President Biden's decision tonight.
Similar tone from high-ranking Democrats, as you've heard already. Politicians including former President Obama, who called Joe Biden a patriot of the highest order. But it's the people who cast the ballots that matter, the voters. How do they feel?
That is a big question. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Johnson spoke to some of those voters in Times Square. Anthony.
Yeah, a lot of people out here in Times Square shocked and surprised when they started to get the news that the president has decided not to run for re-election in 2024. Of course, the election just over 4 months away, but the folks that we talk to out here say they're not really concerned as far as the election is concerned, and they think that the president has done the right thing. The flow of foot traffic finds Times Square bumper to bumper with visitors. Early on, many still unaware of the news about the president's decision not to seek re-election. For those in the know, there is shock and some expecting this would happen.
And it is sad for President Biden, but under the current circumstances, I think in the long run he did the right thing.
I think it was a brave decision. I think he thought carefully about what's best for our democracy and came to a decision that we should all support.
The mayor of New York City issued a statement shortly after Mr. Biden's letter announcing that he would not seek re-election. Mayor Eric Adams saying America owes a debt of gratitude to President Joe Biden for his decades of service. He and his team took us out of COVID, stabilized the country, and restored the soul of the nation. Some voters feel Mr. Biden was forced to drop out of the race by members of his own party. But others believe it would have been better if Biden stepped away earlier instead of waiting with the election 4 months away.
I wish it would have been a decision that would happen before the primary, since everybody's already, put their feelings in place. But if this is the direction he needs to go, I feel very strongly it needs to be an open convention. And whoever's going to be the suggested next candidate needs to go through his 100-day plan and agenda, and we have to believe that they're going to execute that plan.
Yeah, and a lot of people are waiting for that. They want to see what's going to be happening over the next 4 months. The Democratic voters that we talked to say they don't believe that the Democrats are certainly going to lose this race just because Joe Biden has decided to step down. They're a little bit anxious. They're a little bit concerned about the future and who is going to be running. But they said it could add some more excitement to the race. A lot of people that did talk to us today did say that they felt that President Biden had gotten too old for the job and they were concerned about his own personal future. That is the latest live from Times Square. Anthony Johnson, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Anthony. President Biden's decision to drop out of the race generated reaction from leaders across the world.
Biden is set to have a high-stakes meeting this week with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, all focused on the crisis in the Middle East.
We know that has been such a focus. And Josh Einiger live in Tel Aviv right now tonight with reaction from around the world. Josh?
Well, Mike, let's start here in Israel. There perhaps aren't two countries in the world right now that are as inextricably linked as the U.S. and Israel. And so this will land with huge news in the morning when people wake up. It's now about a little bit after 1 in the morning. Interestingly, no comment yet from Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, but we have heard a statement from the president. It's more of a figurehead position. His name is Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the president, Joe Biden, for his friendship and steadfast support for the Israeli people over his decades-long career. He added, as the first U.S. president to visit Israel in wartime, as a recipient of the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor, and as a true ally of the Jewish people, Biden, he added, is a symbol of the unbreakable bond between our two peoples. Now, the garden variety Israeli does have warm feelings for Biden because of what Herzog was talking about there. This video, that hug between Biden and Netanyahu, this was about 10, 11 days after October 7th, when Biden came to Israel, wrapped the prime minister in a bear hug, and by extension, the whole country. He then used a huge amount of his own political capital with his progressive base to support Israel in the face of its war against Hamas. He stood behind this country as it pummeled Gaza, and only in the recent past did Biden appear to break publicly from Netanyahu. By the way, frankly, a large swath of the Israeli electorate has also broken with Netanyahu. We could show you video just from last night, and this is the scene actually that happens every Saturday night at the end of Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. We could show you video as tens of thousands of people gather to rally for Netanyahu's political demise here in Israel. Now, Netanyahu, of course, is heading later this morning here in Israel. He's departing for the first time since October 7th to go to Washington to meet, among other things, with President Biden. It's not clear if that meeting is still on. Two things happening right now. The United States is front and center in peace negotiations. They say they are very close to a ceasefire and potentially a hostage release. At the same time, just a couple of days ago, a drone, an attack drone launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen, landed just a few miles behind me in the center of Tel Aviv, about a block away from the U.S. consulate in Tel Aviv. It hit an apartment building and killed a civilian. To suggest that these two countries, the U.S. and Israel, aren't inextricably linked would be completely naive. And when people wake up in the next few hours here in Tel Aviv, they will be paying very close attention to what's going on back at home. For Live in Tel Aviv tonight, Josh Einiger, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. We're just getting started with our coverage of this historic day in American politics. Up next, we head to Delaware, where President Biden continues to recover from COVID.
And we have a quick programming note for you. Tonight at 7, ABC News will air a 2-hour special, Biden Stands Down, the race for the White House. That begins at 7 right here on Channel 7. We'll be right back.
As the political landscape shifts after the announcement of Joe Biden stepping down, the president, remember, he is still recovering from COVID in Delaware.
That's right, and that is where we find Caroline Goggin from our sister station, WPVI. She is live in Rehoboth Beach. Caroline.
Yeah, guys, good evening from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, in a very quiet area of Rehoboth Beach right now. Not too many people out here tonight. We just arrived in this area about a half hour ago, and just about a half mile down the road from here is where President Biden has his beach home. As you guys can imagine right now, there are Secret Service agents staffed around his beach home after this historic announcement came down this afternoon. Now, we want to show you some video from the last time we saw President Joe Biden. This was from last Wednesday as he boarded Air Force One. We know at the time that this is was when he was diagnosed with COVID-19. And of course, that is exactly what brought him here to Rehoboth, Delaware, to his beach home, where he has been isolating and recovering from COVID-19. Now, we're told that here in Delaware, he has been meeting with a close group of confidants, talking to them about what exactly led up to this decision and how they came to this decision. But we're also told that staff members of Biden's and staff members of Vice President Kamala Harris's, that they were actually pretty surprised today. They were caught off guard by this decision that President Biden posted to X this afternoon in a letter announcing that he is stepping aside from the 2024 presidential race and that he is endorsing his Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. Of course, Biden remains here in Rehoboth Beach, recovering from COVID-19 right now, but we are expected to learn more from him later this week as he addresses the nation and provides more detail about this decision. That's the latest live in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I'm Caroline Goggin, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Thanks, Caroline. As we've been saying, so many questions tonight surrounding what is next for Democrats.
I want to bring in ABC's Mary Alice Parks. And Mary, we appreciate you jumping on here. And we've all been following this. And if you watch the Sunday morning shows, this may come to quite a surprise to so many people. What changed in those hours from the morning until the afternoon when the president eventually made his decision and made the announcement?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We talked to White House staff and campaign staff who told us they were completely blindsided by this, that as late as this morning, they were told that it was full steam ahead. You're right that the president had surrogates out on the Sunday shows talking about how he was eager to get back out on the campaign trail. But look, we know that he has been recovering from COVID there in Rehoboth and that he has been getting counsel from his closest advisors. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it was increasingly clear that his own party was not with him. We really saw the dam break with elected officials, elected Democratic officials in the last few days come out forcefully and say that he should step aside. It was going to be incredibly hard for the president to continue knowing that his party was losing faith in him. And I know, too, that this is a president who is very worried about whether he could be a drag on the rest of the party. You know, Democrats desperately want to keep control of the Senate. They are worried about their chances in House races. All of that together was a part of the president's calculation.
And Mary Alice, the move then to nominate Kamala Harris, to throw his weight behind her, was that a given?
No, not a given. I mean, I think politically it makes so much sense. I mean, he has decided that he has faith in her. He's had faith in her since he picked her to join his ticket. He has talked openly in the last week about how he has absolute faith in her to assume the job. She is a heartbeat away from the presidency. Look, I think that politically there's also a lot of folks across state party committees, across the DNC, across the Biden campaign who also just fundamentally believe that this makes things easier and smoother. It's easier to transfer the money. She's already well vetted. She can sort of galvanize support and keep the party unified in this hectic time. Look, that does not mean that she might not still face a challenge. We could still see someone take her on, but so far, no rumblings of that. So far, it seems like the party wants to stick with her. They are very cognizant, though, that they can't make this look like it was just a coronation. They know that delegates will meet in Chicago, will debate this. We'll debate this in the next few weeks, and that voters in this really unprecedented time will want to feel like they were a part of this, that no new nomination is shoved down their throats. But so far, it is looking like party leaders and delegates are starting to really stick with her and coalesce behind her as potentially the nominee. Should
be an interesting campaign war room for sure as we move forward for the Democrats. Mary Alice, thank you. Appreciate it. Stay with us. We're coming right back with the AccuWeather forecast.
Welcome back. I'm meteorologist Jeff Smith with your AccuWeather forecast on a decent Sunday for most of the area. A couple areas have had a couple of showers, and we have had one of these little sprinkles try to move across parts of New York City in the past 15 minutes or so. We've had a couple of showers down the Jersey Shore as well, but 95% of the area has been dry. 82 right now, feels more like 83. Humidity's up just a little bit, up to about 52%. That'll keep increasing during the next several days. 88 was your high today, about 3 degrees above normal for this time of the year. Sun goes down by the way at 8:21. So more humid tomorrow. Watch for an afternoon thunderstorm west of New York City. More widespread showers and storms coming into the area tomorrow night. That's kind of round number 1 this week, and then just spotty activity during the daylight hours Tuesday before nighttime becomes more active, but especially into Wednesday and Thursday. Those could feature multiple rounds of showers and storms, some of which could be on the heavy side before we clear out just in time for next weekend, and the humidity lowers by then as well. So there's some good news there. Thursday 85 right now at Newark. You're 89 at Somerville. You were 91 a little bit earlier. You're rain-cooled 74 at Toms River. We've had a couple of showers move across parts of Ocean County, now approaching, say, the Stafford area. Quick downpour there. And there's that little sprinkle that developed over, say, Union City and Ridgefield, moving across parts of Manhattan right now. Just a sprinkle. That's about it. So there might be a couple of raindrops coming out of the sky in parts of New York City during the next half hour or so. Our futurecast overnight tonight showing quiet skies out there. We're partly cloudy, a bit sticky. It's more humid. Early sunshine giving way to more clouds for tomorrow. Watch for an afternoon thunderstorm in some areas west of New York City. That high getting up to 84. Everything becoming more widespread tomorrow night. Showers and storms around 71. Bookend storms. Maybe an early shower Tuesday, maybe a late day thunder shower. In between some sunshine, 84. More active Wednesday, Thursday, before again we dry out just in time for next weekend. But it does heat back up into the upper 80s. Eyewitness News returns on the other side of the break.
Despite all the political news today, there is still sports to talk about. We have Ryan Fields to tell us about that. What's going on?
We can't forget about the Mets and the Yankees, guys. Come on now. In a lot of ways, DJ LeMahieu encapsulates a lot of the Bombers' struggles over the last 5 weeks. The veteran infielder batting just .194 this season and thus was benched today by the Yankees. Aaron Boone said he could, however, be back in the lineup tomorrow. Hey, speaking of the Yankees skipper, he wasn't around to see the end of today's tilt against the Rays. Boone tossed for arguing balls and strikes, his 5th ejection of the season. Yanks down 5-zip in the 7th when Aaron Judge did this. An all-rise of the 3-run variety. His 35th of the season, travels 444 feet to left. Then Judge had a chance to be the hero in the bottom of the 9th. Back at the plate, and he just misses a game-tying 2-run homer. Yanks fall again at home, 6-4, the final. Hey, it was Billy the Marlin's birthday today down in Miami. All his furry friends there to celebrate. J.D. Martinez giving the Mets something to get excited about in the 5th, lacing the single to left. Harrison Bader flying around 3rd. He's in safely to cut the Miami lead to just 1. But in the 7th, it's Jake Berger with a little mustard. His solo homer off Aaron Hauser proved to be a big insurance run as the Mets fall in Miami 4-2. And finally, are you ready for some flag football? The girls under 18 championship from Canton, Ohio saw the Staten Island Giants taking on the Apex Predators from Las Vegas. Quarterback Valentina Finetti throwing to Olivia Rijo for the touchdown. How about Staten Island? They win 28-7 to claim the girls under 18 championship. Listen, we don't have a lot of...
There was girls 18 youth.
We'll send it back to you.
Well, that's a nice ring they got for sure.
That's
absolutely
amazing.
All right, Ryan, thank you, pal. So much reaction coming in today after President Biden announced he's dropping out of the race for re-election.
The president saying, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and my country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term.
Reaction coming in from both sides of the political aisle.
President Biden has been one of the greatest, most courageous, and consequential presidents of American history.
I'm not surprised that he's not running. From a political view, I also think that it doesn't really matter whether it was him or Kamala Harris or any other Democrat, because they embrace that same agenda that we believe has been hurtful to this country.
Now, World News Tonight is next, and then at 7 o'clock on ABC News 2 Hour Special. Biden stands down, the race for the White House. Again, that's coming up at 7 o'clock tonight. That is the news for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Joe Torres.
And I'm Mike Marza.
And I'm Tanya Rivero. We'll see you at 11.
What's hot? And we're finding out what's hot right now. And on the next Tamron Hall. They are some of the most listened to podcasts in the world, and they're sharing how they got to the top. Actress Allison Williams talks about her podcast. It's full of family secrets, political scandal, drugs, even murder. Then Sunny Anderson went from cooking to true crime. The most captivating and entertaining podcast of the year. All on the next Tamron Hall. Tomorrow at 2 right here on ABC 7.